Okay, good afternoon, everybody. We are live for LinkedIn Live Leadership number 4. This week, we are going to be talking about teaching others to think. Now, I want to ask you the question, how many people do you know who love to be busy? Yeah, they're the ones that are always late for their appointments, aren't they? Or they say they didn't get your email, or they haven't had time to follow up, and they talk about spinning plates and look how busy I am, look how important I am. It's really important for them. They wear it like a badge of honor. Busyness is a badge of honor, right? Today in LinkedIn Live Leadership number 4, we're going to be talking about teaching others to think. And I want you to think about the importance of not being busy. And I want you to think about the importance of delegating effectively to your team or to the members in your business. And I want you to think about breaking your team's dependency on you, because when they're dependent on you, that can make you really, really busy. So let's have a think about why not being busy is quite a good thing. Okay. Now, I normally say to business owner clients of mine that if you can spend 20% of your week thinking about the things in your business that are really, really important, but not in the least bit urgent, then you're on the road to being a really good business owner. So let's have a think about those things. Have a think about what would fall into that category. What kind of things are really important, but not even slightly urgent? Building a great strategy for your business, right? It doesn't have to be done right now, this second, but without it, the business is going to be in trouble later on. Turning that strategy into a set of plans for the business, so you've got a great action plan for the next 90 days. I mean, that's really important. It doesn't have to be done right now. Maybe the most important one, I think, in this list is building relationships. So, your time as a business owner spent building a great relationship with a customer or a supplier, major account. That's all really, really important stuff. What else have we got on the list? Prevention activities. How would you spend a little bit of time thinking about what could go wrong in the business and how do I stop that from going wrong? Yeah, that might be somebody leaving or a breakdown in the supply chain or customer service issues, things like that. And what are the opportunities in the business? If you spent some of the time thinking about that, then you're going to come up with things that are going to be really important to the long-term future of the business. Have you ever been lying on a sunbather somewhere or out on a run, something like that, and suddenly an idea has popped into your head about what you could do in the business? Yeah, that state of mind that you're in there is normally represented by quite high gamma waves in the brain. Now, don't get that confused with gamma radiation, which is a completely different thing. But when your brain gets into that gamma state, it's normally because you're in a fairly low stimulus, fairly low distraction, kind of in the zone part of your physiological makeup, and you're able to have this increased perception. You have this high cognition, you have peak concentration, and that's why these ideas pop in, because you just connect a few dots and you think, one of the things I could do in my business would be this. So getting into that state is really important. Some people use exercise, some people use meditation, some people just stare out of the window. Yeah, and you just let your mind wander. But most business owners that I speak to don't have time for that, and actually might not even be able to see the value of setting aside time for that. But it is, because you're going to be doing important stuff that isn't urgent. Now, I want to give you an example around dependency culture, because this is really, really important. This is a situation in which your staff or your team become dependent on you. So let's just pick a random person, right? Joe is a web designer. He runs a web design agency. He's been doing it for 5 years, and he's the man, right? He is the head of web design. He is the head of marketing. He's the head of sales. He's the guy who recovers the bad debt. He's the guy who sends out the invoice. He does everything. But Joe is a smart guy. So he hires some people to help him out with the business. And when he hires these people, then he thought that that was going to be good for them if he helped them to do some of the stuff that they were doing. What he learned was that over time, he was accepting the monkeys, right? So what's a monkey? If you've ever read The 1 Minute Manager Meets the Monkey by Ken Blanchard and a couple of other authors, then he talks about monkeys being a problem in your business. So let's say an employee comes to you and this metaphorical monkey is on their back. I've got a problem and I'm coming to you. If you accept that monkey by saying to them, sure, I'll deal with that, give it to me, I'll sort that out, then they learn that that's a behavior that you're likely to do. And they are a problem in your business, and you have to think about what your options are when that monkey is presented to you. Okay, so 2 options, obviously. You can accept the monkey, I'll take that, let me deal with it. Or you can teach others to think and teach others to accept responsibility. What happens when you accept responsibility, right? You might say, well, I know this process inside out. It'll be much easier and quicker if I do it. Yeah, that might be one of the reasons you would accept it. But in doing so, you're sending a great message to your team, and they will love you for this, right? If I go to Joe with this monkey, he always takes it off me. It's great. I just have a problem and I give it to him and he says, I'll deal with it. And that's why business owners become really, really busy, because they can't let go and they can't stop themselves from accepting those monkeys. So the 1 Minute Manager meets the monkey. It's a short read, a small book. If it's a situation you recognize in yourself or in your business or in your team, that would be a great starting piece of homework to read. So what's the alternative? Well, the alternative is to teach others to think. That's why we're here today, to discuss that. And why would you want to do that? Well, first of all, no matter how good you are, it's likely that you don't have all the answers. Okay. You might also find yourself sure that you're the one with all the good ideas, but you're not, right? You don't have a monopoly on good ideas. Is it possible that somebody in your team is going to come up with an idea to solve a particular problem that you've never even thought about? I guess it would be, wouldn't it? So you've got to trust that your team is capable of that. You want your business to run without you. Maybe you don't. Right? But that's what I do with business owners. We talk about, let's create a business that runs without you, because if you ever get to the point where you're thinking about selling your business, and the buyer lifts up the lid and looks inside and they think, well, Joe is running a good company here. It's profitable. It's, we can see that customers are satisfied with what's going on. But as soon as I give Joe the money for his business and he walks away, this whole thing just falls in. So having a business that runs without you is a good way to increase the value and the likely sale price that you're going to get. And surely most managers, most leaders in business, they want a team that can solve problems independently without them. And they don't want this constant backwards and forwards between themselves and the team every time there's a problem. Okay, so how do we do it then? How do we teach other people to think? Well, one of the good ways to do this is to position it at the start, right? So whenever you get an employee that comes in, or whenever you form a team, or whenever you appoint a manager in charge of a team, you position it like this. I want you to be independent. I want this team to operate independently. I'm going to give you the authority, and I want you to produce this outcome that I'm after, independent of me. And by positioning it right at the start, everybody knows that that's your goal for that particular team. You've got to allocate time and resources for training and skills upgrades, because without that, then you're not going to move people up that ladder of kind of authority and responsibility. Yeah. You've got to have a coaching and mentoring kind of attitude. And what does that mean? You want the team to start asking each other questions. You want the team to be self-generating when it comes to identifying answers to some of these problems. So the final bit of this is, don't accept the monkeys. Okay, we're going back to that. People come to you with a problem. It's the monkey on their back, and you don't grab it. So how do you do that? Well, you just use some simple coaching techniques. You might say to somebody, well, look, I've got some ideas about how we could solve this, but before I tell you what they are, what are you thinking? Yeah, so something nice and simple to get them to tell you what kind of possible answers. You could say to them something a bit more robust, like, okay, well, let's just imagine for a minute that I wasn't here. What are you going to do now? What would be a course of action that you would take without me being here to guide you? You could say to them, just run me through some of the potential solutions. You're using coaching type language to elicit from them some ideas that will lead them to the solution. And the good thing about this, and it is quite funny to see this sometimes in businesses, that eventually the staff just go, well, I'm not going to go and see Joe, because every time I go and see him, he asks me all these stupid coaching questions, right? He goes, tell me what you think the solution might be. If you knew the answer, what would it be? This kind of stuff. Well, that creates a break in the dependency. And it's a good thing that staff member goes, well, you know what? I'm just not going to go and see Joe because he's going to ask me these questions. So that's one way, teaching other people to think. Delegation is also an important skill for any leader, of course. You've got to be able to delegate effectively. In Action Coach, we break this down into a number of steps. The first thing you've got to do, the first thing I want you always to do with this, is to run the test for delegation. Okay, so you ask yourself this: what is the worst possible thing that could happen if I delegate this task? And can I live with that outcome? So maybe you wouldn't delegate a task where somebody went to speak on your behalf to one of your major customers, your biggest accounts. Yeah, you just wouldn't feel comfortable allowing that risk that something could go wrong. So that's the first thing. Run the test. What's the worst thing that could happen, and can I live with that? The second thing is to have a think about the cost to you of not delegating this task, right? So you're going to spend your time doing this task. What else could you be doing with your time? Because over here, if there's a task that you could be securing a major account or a new order or whatever it is in the company that represents your highest value activity, that's where you should be. Yeah. So you might think, well, the cost to me of not delegating is I'm going to miss out on that big opportunity. Then think about the process for delegation. And I'll run through these 7 steps really, really quickly because it's quite a lot of common sense in here. Staff are able to accept delegated tasks much more effectively if there's a good policy, procedure, guidance, checklist, manual to go with it. Okay, so if it's a job that you can delegate and it's well understood and well documented, that's always a good start. Make sure they've got the right skills and training. You wouldn't give a job, you wouldn't delegate something to somebody when clearly they didn't have the skills for it. So you're going to have to invest in that. Be sure that they're prepared to accept the responsibility and they understand the level of responsibility. Number 4 is give them the authority. So what you don't want is someone to go off and do this job and start it and then have to come back to you to get a yes or a no for what happens next. Okay, so give them the necessary authority to do that. Give them a time frame. Be really clear about the outcome that you're after. Paint a crystal clear picture of what a good outcome is. And finally, if there is any requirement for them to come back and feedback to you, then make sure that feedback and reporting is clearly outlined as well. Yeah. Once you've let go of the task, you've delegated the task, you've now got a couple of control levels. So have a think about level 1, right? That's where you say to them, set it all up, get everything in place, get everything ready to go, come back to me and I will have a look at what you've done. Then I'll authorize you to pull the trigger and we'll go with it. Yeah. So you're just maintaining a little bit of a tighter control. Level 2 is you might say to them, well, I'm happy for you to crack on with the task. Let's get going. But what I want you to do is every Friday afternoon, come back and just tell me how it's going. Yeah, whether that's a project or whatever it is, just give me a quick update so I know. And you're delegating more control at that point. So we're teaching other people to think. We're delegating effectively. That's a good way to take some of the load off you. What kind of action plan do we need to have? So we need to make sure we recruit people who are demonstrating at the interview stage and in the recruitment process that they're willing to accept ownership, accountability, and responsibility. If you bring people into the business who aren't willing to do that, then this whole process gets much more difficult. Yeah. When they're in position, use something we call a position contract, right? And that lays out roles and responsibilities and the key performance indicators, and use that to make sure that people clearly understand what's expected of them. You know, people work best when they know exactly what's expected of them. Delegate effectively, we've just covered that one, and then coach your team so that they stop bringing the monkeys. You don't want the monkeys. You're busy doing these really high value jobs over here. Let them deal with the monkeys. All right, so we've rattled through that really quickly, 13 minutes or so. If you got value out of this, then do me a favor and tag somebody in the comments who will actually get some benefit from this. That would be really good. Message me regarding gifted coaching. Okay, so at the moment, if something that you heard in this particular LinkedIn Live or any of the other ones resonates with you and you need a little bit of a conversation around that, I'm gifting a couple of sessions to people so that we can have that conversation. So don't hesitate to get in touch for that. Next week, what are we going to do? Wednesday, midday, LinkedIn Live. We'll be looking at the 5 dysfunctions of a team. All right, so Patrick Lencioni did a lot of work on this about how teams are dysfunctional in 5 different ways. I'll introduce you to that concept, and then we can think about how we're going to advance our learning on that. All right, so thanks for watching. Thanks for signing in to watch this today. Share it with anybody else you think will get value, and I will see you next week on Wednesday at midday for LinkedIn Live Leadership number 5.